The latest Pompey news, updates every day from the Pompey Sound news desk.
Portsmouth's pursuit of Josh Knight could gain clarity soon, with HANNOVER 96 planning discussions about potential departures for players on the fringes of their squad, according to Liga 2. Pompey's season has started with mixed fortunes. They kicked off with a win against Oxford United in the Championship, but have since suffered back-to-back losses to Reading in the Carabao Cup and Norwich City in the league. These recent setbacks have led manager John Mousinho to consider bolstering his defensive options, though he remains measured about the situation. Speaking to the News, he said, "We've got decent coverage with 4 centre-backs, 3 right-backs and 2 left-backs. While it's not our top priority, we'd certainly look at any good opportunities that come up in the next couple of weeks." Knight, who's currently out of favour at HANNOVER 96, emerged as a Portsmouth target last weekend. The German club appears keen to move him on before the transfer window closes, and he'll likely be a key topic in their upcoming meeting about player departures. The 27-year-old defender joined HANNOVER last season after leaving Peterborough United. Despite making 23 appearances in the Bundesliga 2 last term, he hasn't featured in any of the team's first 3 matches this season. Knight brings solid championship experience, having played for both Wycombe Wanderers and Peterborough at that level. He was also part of Posh's successful League One campaigns, helping them reach the playoffs twice and lift the EFL trophy in 2023-24. If he makes the move to Fratton Park, Knight would likely compete with Regan Poole and Connor Shaughnessy for a starting spot in Pompey's defence.
Well, you could have all sorts going on here. John Mousinho was very unhappy with the defending against Norwich, and it may be that he wants to wake Poole and Shaughnessy up. It could be that Boat is not making the 101% recovery from his injury that everyone was hoping, so we might be a little bit short on cover. Also, there's the fact that John Mousinho was with Oxford United when Wycombe, which is just up the road from Oxford, and is a club that he was rumoured to be interested in thinking about, hoping to perhaps join as head coach before Portsmouth came a-hunting. So he would have acquainted himself for sure with this young lad, John Michael, what's his name again? Josh Knight. Josh, bear with. It's just nice to know people's fault. Joshua Michael Knight, who's 27, was born in Fleckney, which is up Leicestershire way, and he started out with Leicester, hired by the academy or signed by the academy at the age of 8. He's 6'1", and he's absolutely rock solid. And I just want to end this little profile of somebody who probably won't be joining us by just saying, in tribute to Alan Knight, that it would be nice and nostalgic to see the name Knight on the team sheet again.
John Mousinho explains there's still some doubt about the extent of Callum Lang's latest hamstring injury.
Callum felt his hamstring, so we'll see how it settles down. It's a massive blow to lose him, but we'll look at him and know more by next Wednesday. I don't know if it's a recurrence of a hamstring injury, but it's a hamstring injury, so we'll see how he gets on with that one. I think somebody said to me he's struggling with his hamstring straight away, so I shouted on to see if he was okay, and he gave it that he wasn't sure, which told me it wasn't. It was unfortunate because Murph got down the left and crossed, and that would have been where Langy would have been. Everyone was a bit frustrated but didn't realise he'd injured his hamstring, otherwise Callum would have been there. We were focused on adding in the wide areas anyway, and that's where Callum has been playing. We still thought it was a real priority to strengthen in wide areas, so I don't think Callum's injury necessarily changes anything. We'll just continue in that vein. Mousinho explained Murphy was genuinely a doubt as he was taken off after 70 minutes, with the issue needing to be managed moving forward. That's why we brought Murph off. He hasn't had a huge amount of training, but we decided to go with him because of the importance of the game, so we were glad to get him through unscathed, and will now build him up next week for West Brom.
So when John Mousinho says we'll have to wait until Wednesday for an update on Callum Lang's injury, he's talking about the fact that we, the public and the press, will have to wait until Wednesday. That's when he does his next press conference, and that's the next time he's prepared to divulge what information about Lang's injury he is prepared to divulge. It is a worry. It's a little bit more of a worry than it was on Sunday morning, when it seemed to be getting waved away as being just a precautionary, taking the guy off. but it's clear that he wasn't functioning well on the pitch. And so Messino makes the point that he might have been on the end of that particular Murph cross if he had been 100%. But it's good to know that communication is working well within the ranks. It seems that when John Messino's question, how are you okay, got to Callan Lang on the pitch, he made a gesture, which is that one where you hold your hand out, your palm down, with your fingers stretched apart, and you sort of wiggle them backwards and forwards, as if to sort of go, don't know, comme ci, comme ça. But Messino interpreted that to mean that there might well be a problem, and it looks as though he was right, and it was good that he came off when he did. We want players to play through a little bit of pain, but when it's an injury rather than a knock, we don't want them to try and walk it off or hang around on the pitch in the hope of bagging a goal and grabbing and covering themselves in glory. We want them to do the professional and the sensible thing. If your hamstring is starting to tighten up and starting to hurt, off you come.
Referee controversy took centre stage in Pompey's heartbreaking 2-1 loss to Norwich City on Saturday. The drama peaked late in the match when Conor Ogilvie went down in the box after contact with Norwich defender Jacob Wright. With Pompey desperately chasing an equaliser, referee Stephen Martin not only denied what looked like a clear penalty, but booked Ogilvie for simulation, leaving the Fratton Park crowd fuming. Former Norwich striker Chris Sutton had a different take though, taking aim at Ogilvie during his BBC 606 phone-in show. In his typical provocative style, Sutton awarded Ogilvie his first simulation of the season prize, alongside similar incidents from Sunderland's Chris Rigg and Plymouth's Brendan Wyadu. "You don't dive against Norwich City, you just don't do it," Sutton declared with obvious bias. "Conor Ogilvie, you're better than that. You're a good player, but just stop diving and never dive against the Canaries. It doesn't matter where you play, we will hunt you down." Pompey boss John Messino strongly disagreed with the referee's call. "I thought it was a penalty on Conor. There was definitely contact and he's been brought down in the box," Messino told the News. "As soon as he blew the whistle, I thought he was going to give it. It was a strange decision that didn't go for us." Which seemed to be the theme of the day. The controversial decision ultimately helped hand Pompey their first league defeat of the season, despite a late push for an equaliser.
Yeah, and we must never forget that fantastic last 12 or 15 minutes when we tore them to pieces. They were all over the place, headless chickens. Whatever Sutton has to say for himself. So he's awarded Conor the simulation of the season, has he? Well, back at you, Chris, if you ever find out or care. We're going to award you Pompey Sound's first lack of stimulation of the season, because that's so bog standard what you're doing, what you're saying, and hogging the airwaves on 606, which was once a proud radio phone-in vehicle for proper pundits and has now become, it seems to me, it's reduced itself to some sort of schoolboy humour level, and poor attempts to be not biased in the way that Alan Shearer is biased towards Newcastle, or biased in the way that Gary Lineker was ironically biased towards his Leicester. Sutton is not an entertainer, whereas Lineker is and Shearer is. So come on, 606, get some stimulation into your show. As for whether or not Conor made a meal of it, we want VAR, don't we? We football fans, we pretend we don't like VAR for a whole variety of reasons, but when a decision goes against us, we fleetingly say to ourselves, if only there was VAR, we would probably have had that decision by the referee overturned. A yellow card would have been rescinded, is the word, and the penalty given. There's a good chance that may have been the outcome if we had had VAR. OK, yeah, I agree, generally speaking, we don't want it. We'd be deprived of the controversy that we have on our hands, which is a lot of fun, arguing about whether or not it was a penalty, arguing about whether or not, if Ogilvie had stayed on his feet, he'd have had a clear opportunity to get a meaningful cross in. And he's good with his left foot, and it was teed up onto his left foot. He'd gone round his man. He could have stayed on his feet because it takes a lot to knock Conor Ogilvie over. That is the bottom line on this one. That was almost a stage trip. Conor, come on. You're not a diver. I won't have it that anybody else says you might be, But we say you're not a diver, so don't even give people the opportunity to suggest that you're a diver, and certainly don't give referees the opportunity to give you a yellow. We don't need too many yellows. We don't need any yellows this season. We've got a couple or three already, haven't we? I think John Swift has got one. That's a bit of a worry until Marlon Pack comes back. So all things being equal, we'll take it on the chin. We were much the better team for the last 15 minutes of the game, but you need to be the better team for 98 minutes of the game. So something to be learned there. We can stick it to teams like Norwich, but we've got to be full of adrenaline and urgency and need to do it. Well done, the fans. Everybody stuck behind us. Everybody was cheering us on, and there wasn't a single stupid noise, lowing cattle noise when we came off the pitch. So, on the whole, OK, we lost. Norwich are a good side. Onwards and upwards. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And Connor, stay on your feet. Keep up your image, which is that you are such a solid man. Nobody can knock you over.